All right, boys, let's get to the hockey. The big story this weekend, buddy Trevor Zegras pulled off yet another Michigan goal. After putting a shot through his legs, takes the rebound, does a Michigan. But the big story was what happened late in the game. The Ducks up 5-0, a few minutes left. He poked at the puck underneath goalie Carter Hutton. He was playing the whistle. The whistle hadn't blown. Carter Hutton didn't even react. Jay Beagle comes in, absolutely buries him in the back. He goes down. Troy Terry goes over to Beagle and engages him. And Beagle just kind of slaps a beating on him. I don't think Terry was expecting it. We seen he got pretty bloodied afterward. And then the takes just started pouring in. I know your old coworker Tyson.
Well, there's
Nash,
so many different things that went on. So I think what we should do first, and this is why it went viral, was because people were very unhappy with the way that Tyson Nash presented it on the broadcast. So for those of you who haven't heard it, which is probably not going to be many of you, we're going to roll it right now.
Knew that was going to start something, and I love it. Yeah, Beagle's pounding somebody. Troy Terry. Yeah, Beagle caught him up high. Oh, man. And Beagle's going to fight someone else here. And Terry's hurt. Jay Beagle caught Troy Terry with a couple. And that's the problem sometimes with these young players. You want to embarrass guys, and you want to skill it up. You better be prepared to get punched in the mouth. Beagle wants to go with Fowler. I think Fowler wants to go with him. I'd love to see him let him go. Boy, I haven't seen Jay Beagle like that all season. He's fired up. I love it. Good for Jay Beagle. He's a veteran player that's been around a long time, and he's watching these young kids dance around these fancy moves.
Okay, so that happened. Then, of course, Troy Terry was all bloodied up, and Zegras was pretty heated. This was at the end of the game. There was just under 5 minutes, I believe, left in the game. So now we're going to roll Zegras' comments.
2 minutes left in the game. We're up 5-0. Guy, our best player, our leading goal scorer, one of the best players, in my opinion, in the whole league, takes a shot. Or I take a shot, he comes in to help me. I'm not going to name the player, but I get that he's going to punch him maybe once. But the fact that he's down and he's not engaged in a fight, you're going to hit him 3 more times. I think it's embarrassing. I think he should be embarrassed. I'm not going to comment any further on whether or not I think he should have even been able to get to Troy while he was on the ice. But I'm embarrassed that it even got that far. I appreciate Troy sticking up for me because I think that's a nonsense cross-check with 2 minutes left in a 5-0 game. I'm embarrassed for whoever that was. I'm not going to say his name. And I think the league should step in here and do something about it.
Was the puck loose when you kind of jabbed at it?
100% loose. And I get you're going to hit me in the back, but you don't punch a guy when he's down. Especially a 32-goal scorer in the NHL who's a superstar. I think it's embarrassing. I think it's a bad look for the league. And for the player that did it, it's humiliating, and I think he should be fucking punished.
Okay, so this is going to be a long discussion because obviously the newer hockey fans and the ones who are, love the skill in the game and who hate the old school mentality were absolutely furious. I'm sure Tyson Nash was fielding a massive amount of criticism, and I think that he actually spoke with Craig Morgan before their next game and just kind of wanted to rephrase as to what he said. Now, I know if I was on the broadcast, I would have just simply said, well, it's 5-0. There's under 5 minutes left. The puck's underneath the goalie. I'm not saying that Zegras shouldn't go for the puck, but he ends up poking at the goalie. In every situation in the NHL when that happens, there's always a scrum. Yes or no? Is that not?
100%.
100%. So I thought that the cross-check that Beagle ended up giving Zegras was warranted. Now, I'll put myself in Beagle's head. So right after that happens, mind you, they're down 5-0. They're sick and tired of the fact that they're being embarrassed. Right after that, it looked like Fowler kind of went at him. And he gave him a little shove, but he didn't end up like tying up with him. And then right after that, Troy Terry ended up coming to Zegras' aid too. Now, where I think that people are very upset with Beagle, and I guess I can speak to what if I were Beagle, I've never really abused a skill guy where I knew that I could absolutely pound the shit out of him. I've never done that. But I can understand the fact that Fowler lunged at him, then all of a sudden Terry came at him, and all of a sudden they're in the midst of a fight. The wires are crossed, and all of a sudden he's just worried about getting his gloves off and trying to pound him. Now, I mean, Terry was the guy who went over and grabbed him. So what's he supposed to do? I guess you could say, well, after the few initial shots and realizing that Terry didn't really actually want to engage, he just wanted to go stick up for his teammate. Well, like I said, if you're a hockey fan and you've never played at the pro level and you don't understand what it's like to be in one of those scrums where things are going a million miles an hour, it's easier said than done after the fact. Now, as far as Nasher's comments, I would have just simply said, as I mentioned, like, yo, you fucking poke at the goalie, shit's going to happen, especially in a 5-0 game. Going back to the skill aspect, I think that there's probably some conversation around the league that, you know, when you're pulling off these moves and then you're winking at the crowd and you're showboating a little bit. Yeah, like teams don't like that. Like that hasn't changed, right? Whether it's 20 years ago or now. Obviously 20 years ago, guys might have went over right after the goal was scored and he pulled off the Michigan and then fucking maybe, you know, kind of did this to the crowd or whatever. In this situation, I don't think he sellied too hard, but I know guys going into the game, and Tyson Nash probably had been aware of it, that guys were a little bit sick of maybe some of the showboating from some of these new school guys. Hey, I'm in the entertainment business, guys. I don't give a flying fuck. I like these goals. I thought the goal was gorgeous, and the fact that he went around Sonny Milano and did it, I think because of Nash's comments, it kind of just created this whole discussion as to think that, like, this guy should have got his face pounded in because he's a skilled player and because he's showboating the other team. It was a strong correlate or a bad correlation. I think the comments made everything way worse than it was, and I'm sure that Nasher is regretting it to a certain degree. But at the fact that there was a scrum after the guy poked at the goalie and somebody ended up with a black eye and a bloodied eye, I mean, we see this all the time.
Yeah, that's a solid breakdown. And my thing was, so as the game's switching over and as we're getting to this new style hockey and the old way of hockey is sort of dying and, if not dying, becoming less and less, you see these different arguments from both sides. And I think you could kind of, like most arguments, see each side a little bit, right? So Zegras has no business poking the goalie there. Zero. There's no reason to do it. There's no reason to do it. When you do it, you're going to get cross-checked. And when Beagle cross-checked him, I had no problem with it. By the way, I love Trev, dude. He's one of our buddies on the show. I'll say this. The cross-check wasn't that hard. Like, he didn't, like, there was no chance Zegras was injured from that. It was just more a normal, like, you're poking at the goal, it's 5-0, boom. Would have been way worse before, years ago. Jay Beagle is a veteran hockey player. Now, let's also remind everyone, he's not a fighter. He's had about, 7 fights in his career, one of which he got put to sleep, and Aaron Asham, like, did the old, like, go to bed with all his teeth knocked out. He's not a fighter at all. He's played in the league a long time. He's on the worst team in the league. They're at home getting pounded 5-0, okay? This is and will forever be a violent, competitive, in-your-face sport. And emotions run so high. And when you've gone through a season like he's gone through, and you are dealing with a team that's young and having fun and skating by your bench and enjoying themselves, which I think is great for the game and awesome for these young Ducks players, it does not take away from the fact that an older veteran hockey player is going to be disgusted. He cross-checks Zegras, and the first thing that he sees, he's kind of like, all right, what's going to go on here? And Fowler comes at him. He like kind of throws a punch at him, or at least the linesman's able to grab Fowler. And then Terry comes in like a good teammate. You see Zegras cross-check. Now, maybe Terry could have been like, he kind of deserved to. He was whacking the goalie. But no, that's not what hockey players do. No matter what happens to a teammate, you get in. He throws a punch with his glove on, but he throws a jab, a little kind of, not a hard punch, a little love tap at Beagle. Beagle at this point is now, like I said, down 5-0 on the worst team in the league with his tempers running high. So what's he do? He grabs the guy. The linesmen are around Zegras because they're probably protecting him, thinking somebody might go after him for getting at the goalie. The other linesman, I think, had grabbed Fowler. I don't exactly remember. And he starts teeing off. If he had just grabbed him and dropped his glove and hit him once, where you could tell, like, the angle and you can kind of see from the camera view what's going on, and he kind of hit him once and realized, all right, this kid has no interest in fighting. I'm done with this. That's it. And then this is a non-story in my mind. This is the part where I'm sure, actually, I shouldn't say I'm sure Beagle regrets. This is the part that is tough to watch. And for these hockey fans who hate fighting and want it out of the game and love the skill in the game, it's disgusting to watch because then he just continues to pound on him. Now, when Tim Jackman grabbed me, not that I was a player like Troy Terry, it's just ripping my head off my body and pounding my head in. Like, when somebody's pissed off in this game, unless a ref or a linesman gets in there, you can pretty much do whatever you want. You're not at that moment giving one fuck what some fan online's thinking. You know, you're worried and you're thinking about how pissed off this guy has made you. This guy just came at you first. The first guy that you went after speared the goalie in your mind. And so the beginning of it was not an issue. The entire beginning of the whole thing was not an issue to me. It was just that he continued to beat on him and he continued to kind of pound him. But for years, man, like that's kind of been the case. Like if you don't want to get pounded, don't go at a guy who could pound your head in. That's how it used to be, and it's changing. But my argument in all of this, while Beagle kind of looks a little foolish because he's beating down on a guy who's never been in a fight, I don't think, that's not a suspendable offense. Like, I'm sorry. I don't think it is. I don't think that's worthy of games or even a fine. Like, that's the rough and ugly nature of hockey at times, but that is still hockey. So Tyson Nash's comments, I can understand why people are flipping out because he's like, you want to scale it up? Like, that's the very old school way of thinking of it. But I understand his message. It's like, don't fucking do anything that will piss us off if you're up 5-0 or we're going to punch your head in. And the fact that people hate that, oh my God, what do you mean you can't do anything if you're up 5-0 and outskilling a team? Well, I'm sorry. It's a game with fighting. It's a physical game that will always be that way until they take fighting out. If you're up 5-0 and you're doing stuff to piss off a team and there's a veteran on the other team that's had enough, he's going to do something about it. So both sides were at fault, I think. And Beagle certainly, I don't know if he feels bad, but he's probably like, shit, I pounded this kid's head in. But I know I've been talking for a while here. It brings me to another aspect of this. And RA, I'm sure you had this in the notes, was Teemu Selanne's comments after. And Teemu sent out a tweet. Enough, I'm paraphrasing, enough of these guys on the Ducks getting pushed around. We need to bring in some toughness. So as all these people talk about how the game is changing and we cannot have bullshit like that and Beagle beating a defenseless player and blah, 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 blah. Well, do you notice what some of the best teams are doing? Because the Rangers are having one of the best seasons in the league, and they brought in Reeves. And the Colorado Avalanche have McDermott all the time. And the Wild are a big, strong team who just brought in Delorier. And when the Bruins were this wagon of a team the last 10 years, they were one of the toughest teams going. And Toronto has Wayne Simmons. So as much as everyone hates it, you need it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where the game's going because the game is still the game. It's still the physicality. It's still the violent nature of hockey. And when the playoffs come, it's going to be even worse. Sorry, folks. Sorry, people who don't like it. You need the toughness. So Teemu's saying we traded away Delorier. We've gotten rid of guys. It's like you cannot do that. I know people want to think, oh, we just need a team of flying, skillful players. No, dude, this is hockey. It doesn't work like that. And look at Calgary. And look at the season they've had, and look at the teams Darryl Sutter had in L.A. You can't play hockey with an entire roster of fast, skillful, fun-to-watch players. And I know that that's going to create an uproar with people who don't think you should have to have toughness in your lineup to be a good team. That is the game. And I know some people don't like the game that way, but they're incorrect in thinking that way.
I think those type of people have pushed it to a good place. It's not where it was, right?
Exactly.
I use the term
but it's never going where they want it to go.
Bingo. And that's the key right there. The pussification of the game has reached a level where I think that we're in a great spot. If you're not under the understanding that whole scrum and that result of Troy Terry's eye happened because in a 5-0 game with 5 minutes left, somebody poked at the goalie. Now, I'll ask you this, Whit. I don't know if there's going to be a clip out there where it comes back to bite me in the ass, but you typically think a guy like I'll just use Sid as an example, or any smart veteran, up 5-0 where that puck's underneath the goalie, most guys are just like, I'm not poking at that puck because I know what's going to happen. It was a rookie mistake. I'm not saying he shouldn't go after that puck because the whistle hadn't gone, but it's like, hey man, if you go after that puck that's underneath the goalie, it's been happening since the beginning of time as far as hockey's concerned. So anybody who didn't want that to happen can't argue at the fact that you can't be going after that puck when it's 5-0 with that much time left. And to go even further back in that game, things were getting a little bit chippy, and even I guess Anaheim apparently was yapping quite a bit. So tensions were already on high on top of that before that scrum. Did it get even worse because it just so happens that Trevor Zegras, the guy who pulled off that fancy move between his legs and then does the Michigan, probably add to the fact that he got a little bit of extra spice on the cross-check and there was a retaliation? Yeah, but as you mentioned, he kind of folded like a cheap tent. It wasn't even that bad of a retaliation, in my opinion. The cross-check was warranted, and it wasn't any harder than what he did to the goalie.
The cross-check, it wasn't that bad. Now, Merles, remember back in the day, it's like, and I know saying back in the day, like, what a boomer, what a loser Whitney is. If it was 5-0, it's like, boys, let's get out of the game, boys. No bullshit,
Teams
guys.
wouldn't even want to get it to 5-0.
That's what I've been since the Toronto Metro Junior Hockey League days when I was actually a skill player. I wouldn't even want to be on the ice in the last 5 minutes if we're up 5-0. I put some of this on the coach. Why do you have Zegras and Terry out there?
Nah, that's a lot.
And if it's 5-0, I'm not going anywhere near the corner. I'm not going near the goalie. If I'm up 5-0, I've been probably going by their bench and chirping after a Michigan. Like, I put a little blame on those guys for even putting themselves in that situation as a coach. I would
now here's the argument is people at home are like that completely disagree with my take. It's like, why should you not be going after a loose puck up 5-0? Score more. You're skilled. Get as many goals as you can. It's just that's the way the hockey's played. The game's over. Don't fuck around and piss somebody off unless you're willing to go. And there's plenty of guys, like if you're Luch or you're one of these players who's willing and looking forward to protecting yourself, and maybe he's got a pissed off vibe about you at the end of the game, and you're like, you know what, even though we're up 5-0, I'm going to go in and poke at the goal, and I hope somebody pushes me because I still want to get in a fight tonight. But if you don't want to get in a fight, just skate away.
That's what Walshy used to do.
People think I'm crazy for that, but that's how it was when I played, and I don't think it'll ever go the other way completely.
Yeah, when I was played with Walshy and Wilkes-Barre in the fourth line, we would get those minutes, and he's like, Merles, I'm going to go in and poke the goalie and start a fun bunch. Just make sure you grab one of the guys that comes after me, because he knew they would all be in there, and that's what it is. You get in there, and in defense to Beagle, like you said earlier, the wires cross. It's you don't know what you're doing in there. You're just grabbing on, and you're fighting for survival.
Well, so. and as we said, it was an eye for an eye at that point. It was a poke for a cross check, and then we've talked about maybe how he should have stopped wailing on Troy Terry, but I think the whole thing got escalated by the fact that two guys took a run at him.
I don't know that I'd equate with the poke from Zegras with the cross check. I know it wasn't the worst cross check, but it was barely a jab, and Carter Hutton didn't even react. I think the cross check was a little worse than Zegras poking at the puck.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Fair enough.
That's
no,
I
respect that opinion from you, and yeah, no, I
from an actor.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm sure Troy Terry's been doing okay at the bar the last few days.
Oh, yeah. He should be thanking the Coyote. Oh, no, he's got a girl.
The stitches in the black
this
eye.
This is a very
over.
deep cut.
Yeah.
But so Zegras' comments after, I saw some people ripping on him, right? He called Terry a superstar. That's one of his best friends. He sees his buddy with his eyes swelled shut with stitches in his eyelid. The funniest part, though, is he keeps looking over his shoulder. Did he think Beagle was coming down the hall after him? Did you notice in the comments he keeps looking behind him?
WWF style, like someone's going to come down the hall with a
hit
chair.
With a metal chair in the hallway of the jobbing arena.
So
it's even still called that.
But yeah, as far as Tyson Nash's comments, I really think that that definitely escalated things, and I'm not obviously in the agreement that if somebody's skilling it up, they should have their fucking face caved in. But if you're maybe selling the way that they're selling, and then that up 5-0 at that point, guys might get a little fed up with all of it, and then that's when you're going to get teed off on. So yeah, I'm sure they're regrettable for him, and he wanted to reword them. But hey, man, when you're live on a broadcast and you probably know as much inside information as how fed up guys are with certain situations, maybe you actually speak from the heart and you don't sugarcoat it, and then here we are.
It might serve as a reminder to these young guys that this is still the NHL, like Whit just said, and these things can happen. Just because you engage a guy, he's not going to wrap you up. Some guy might punch the shit out of you. Like Whit said, guys' wires get crossed. And
they should make a tap-out rule in hockey.
And also, one other point, the NHL is not going to be Olympicized. They're never going to get this out. And NHL fans don't want it. We want the physicality. We want the fight. And like I've said for years, Whit, it's in a case of emergency, break glass. These guys want it as an option. They're never going to vote it out. And it's part of the game. And people who don't want it, I don't know, maybe watch a different league because it's the NH fucking L. And that's the way
you can watch
go.
the Swedish third division. We're not allowed to fight there.
That's because everyone's so hungover they'll pee themselves if they square off.